You're watching TCBK News. Just in, this is breaking news. I'm Taj Kimbrough, your host.
And I'm Trish Warren.
We are receiving many reports of a universal crisis that is the leading cause of prejudice, discrimination, antagonism, dehumanization, and even violence.
What is this catastrophic affair, you may ask? Racism. Our news source Bonet is live at the scene gathering the latest details from a victim of racism. Bonet?
Thanks, Taj and Trish. I'm Bonet, and I'm here with Al, who's a black man. It is reported that African Americans or people of African descent are one of the many groups that are affected by racism. Good morning, sir. Can you tell me about an experience you had due to racism?
Yes, I've had experiences, especially driving DWB.
Can you speak up, sir?
Especially driving DWB is like driving while black. I've been encountered a whole lot of times when a police officer pulled me over. And my advice to a lot of African American males is just to comply due to the fact that they are fearful of the black man due to the stigma that we have been encamped around us. So with that, those are major experiences that as an African American black man I had to experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
So how do you personally deal with racism?
Well, firsthand, I try to show a little love and compassion for everyone. And remember that as an American soldier in the United States Army, that you have to try to just get along with people. So me dealing with the white people or Caucasian, however you want to call them, I've learned this to do what I can to show compassion.
Do you have any advice to allies who want to use their privileges to make the world a better place?
Just try to show love, try to show that compassion, show a little empathy when it comes down to dealing with people, especially when you encounter people that are not of your same generation or culture. Just try to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Don't be afraid of it. Just be able to come and talk to them. That makes the world a better place.
Well, thank you, sir. Back to you, Taj and Trish. The definition of racism is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people based on their membership in a particular racial group, typically referring to someone who is a minority or marginalized. It is reported that the most common symptom of racism is oppression, which is prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control, typically referring to vulnerable people. Trish, how do we know if someone is oppressed?
That's a great question, Taj. If you're sitting at home wondering if any of your intersectional identities are oppressed, you might want to ask yourself these questions. Do people generalize the actions of a few to my entire group or groups, denying individual characteristics and behaviors? Are my group's existence and everyday achievements unknown? Do the people of the dominant culture pressure me to drop my culture and differences and become a mirror of them? Is there selective presentation or rewriting of history so that only negative aspects of my group are included? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then one or more of your intersectional identities are oppressed.
So we've invited a special guest from out of town to tell us more about racism. Claudiana is very knowledgeable on this global issue, and she's here to inform us academically on what racism is and how to put an end to it. Claudiana, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for inviting me. So, there are 3 subdivisions of microaggressions, which are ways that a person can be racist, whether it is intentional or unintentional. Micro-insults are often unconscious communications that convey rudeness and insensitivity and demean a person's racial heritage. Micro-invalidations are often unconscious communications that exclude, negate, or nullify the psychological thoughts, feelings, or experiential reality of a person of color. Lastly, micro-assaults are conscious, explicit racial derogations characterized primarily by a violent, verbal, nonverbal, or environmental attack meant to hurt the intended victim through name-calling, avoidant behavior, or purposeful discriminatory actions. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people are wondering if racism is curable. A cure to racism would mean that every single person in the world would not have any prejudices or different races. Although that is an ideal world to live in, it is impossible at this point in life. However, we can definitely prevent racism by resisting it. And you do not have to be just a person of color to resist. It is also very crucial for members of the dominant culture, or white people, to be allies and use their privileges also to prevent racism. If you ever encounter racism, a great way to resist is using the IDEX system. You can interrogate the system, ask questions, or gather information about policies. You can disrupt by instigating and participating in conversations in that setting where you observed racism. You can advocate for people of color who are negatively affected by racism by voting and presenting new ideas or policies that are not racist. However, keep in mind that as an ally, it is important to never speak over people of color. Lastly, you can create these policies or create opportunities for people of color to speak up and make changes. Or, in simpler words, stand up for people when you notice injustice and mistreatment. Make it the norm to educate and resist instead of ignoring racism, even if you think it does not affect you. Even if you must educate your family members and friends, every little bit counts.
Wow. I feel a lot more knowledgeable about racism now. What about you, Trish?
Me too. I believe that with education and global unity, racism can definitely be prevented.
Absolutely. That's all the news that we have today. Thank you for joining us on TCBK News. Until next time, good night.